So Rahul, let's without much ado get started. And if you don't mind, maybe I'll start first with you as Rahul the person.
Okay.
You know, being a great-grandson, grandson and a son of 3 prime ministers, you know, someone would see your life as of a privileged one. Do you think you have lived a privileged life?
I mean, it depends which side of the coin you look at. Of course, there are a number of privileges where I sit, but I wouldn't say that I haven't been through a rough ride. I was 14 when my grandmother was assassinated. I used to play badminton with the people who assassinated her. I saw my grandmother die, and then I saw them die. After that, my father's killed. So you live in a particular environment. I'm surrounded by 15 guys from morning, noon, and night. So that's, I mean, I don't think that's a privilege. I think that's quite a hard thing to deal with. But then, life's a balance. You get, you know, you have some privileges, you have some disadvantages. You take what you're dealt.
So 15 guys, bulk of the day. That's almost like being in a house arrest. How many years has been like this for you?
1984.
Wow, ever since. And hats off. You know, I was 14 when I lost my younger brother, my only sibling, and I can only feel how it is. Can I, if you don't mind, take you back to, so when your father was assassinated, where were you and how was it conveyed to you?
We knew basically that Papa was going to die. I mean, we knew Dadi was going to die also. It wasn't something that was not clear to us, because they had, in politics, when you mess with the wrong forces and if you stand for something, you will die. I mean, that's pretty clear. I've been watching the political system now in India since I've been a little kid, and it was pretty clear to us that, I mean, my grandmother told me she was going to die, and my father, I told him he was going to die.
Oh my goodness.
So
it's amazing. You know, all through that young life.
You asked me the question about the phone call.
Yeah.
I was in Harvard University in Boston, and there was a discussion going on about the election campaign, and we knew that this was going to be a really problematic election campaign, and it was pretty much his last meeting. So we knew that was a problematic meeting. And then friend of his, a brother of a friend of his called me up and said, you know, I've got some bad news. So then I said, yes. Is he dead? And they said, yes.
You had premonition already.
I said, thank you. So we in politics, we deal with forces, big forces that are not normally visible. You're dealing with interests, you're dealing with structures that are powerful. And most of the time, they're not visible to the public. And those they can hurt you.
Talking about your time at Harvard that you mentioned, and I learned that you had to study under a different name, etc. And there was this story about the guardian you had, who happened to be an Indian gentleman as well, but you both had to be beat by FBI.
It's a psychology, you know. So I mean, the anecdote you're referring to, when I Because in Harvard University, there's this whole security problem. This is how you move, this is where you have to go, this is where we'll be waiting for you. So I had me sitting there, 19 years old, and I had a PhD student, my guardian, sitting there. Well, I said, listen, there's my guardian, I mean, should I call him? And they're like, yeah, it's important you call him. So he came. This guy didn't really know what was going on. So we sat down in the room, and then these guys started up, you know. This is what you got to do, and if people come from there, that's what you do. And then, for me, it was normal, and then I looked, and the guardian was crying. So
He's crying.
He was crying. He was crying, and then we walked out of the room. He grabbed my hand, and he said, you know, this is the most evil thing I've ever seen. How can people be like this? So that's the privilege, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's not visible. That's all behind the scenes.
If you don't mind, I want to ask you one more deeper personal question. Have you and your sister forgiven the killer of your father?
We were very upset and hurt, and for many years we were quite angry. But somehow, completely. In fact, completely.
Kudos to you.
Yeah.
Kudos. They're coming from the party of Mahatma Gandhi.
See, one day I mean, there's a history, and one realizes that when these events take place, it's collision of ideas, forces, confusion. That's where you get caught. I remember when I saw Mr. Prabhakaran on TV lying dead, I got two feelings. One was, why are they humiliating this man in this way? And second was, I felt really bad for him. I felt bad for him, I felt bad for his kids. And I did that because I understood deeply what it meant to be on the other side of that thing. And so to me, when I see violence, regardless of who it is, I know that there is a human being behind that, there's a family behind that, there's people behind that, there's kids crying behind that. So I think this is something that I've been through a lot of pain to get this. This is something that I consider very valuable. I literally don't hate people. I find it, even my sister, we find it difficult to hate people.
That's great.
I called up Priyanka after I saw this picture. I saw Mr. Prabhakaran, and I said, Priyanka, this is a very strange thing. I'm feeling a bit bad. She's like, why? I said, because he killed Papa. And I'm feeling that I'm not even, like, I should be happy that he's dead. Why am I not even generating a little bit of happiness inside? And she's like, oh, I'm feeling exactly the same. So my sister and me, we've been through the same experience, so we understand. We vibe together, we understand what these things are.
That's great. Look, two of the greatest Indians were Buddha and Gandhi, and the biggest quality they espoused were forgiveness. Really kudos to you and your sister both to have reached that level. Thank you. Maybe I talk a little bit about your sister. So you two really grew up very close with each other. So how deep a relationship has been? Any stories from your childhood with Priyanka?
She's my best friend, basically. And I know, generally I'll be like, Priyanka, if I've got something I'm thinking about or some work stuff, I'd say, Priyanka, what are you thinking? What do you think of this? And I know pretty much 90% of the time, what she says is what I'm saying, and vice versa. So because we've been through this thing together, we sort of understand each other.
But both of you would have, during Dadi's time as well as Dad's time, would have seen many global leaders come by and then the scene.
Yeah.
Anyone who interested you most from those in any which way?